Hello, everybody. It's Mike Young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and we are back with Sid Notter. Welcome, Sid.
Welcome. Hello. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Very, very good. I hear the birds chirping over there because they're not where I am. I know because I'm indoors. Can't hear them. But I know, just to remind viewers if they haven't seen you before, you are the author of the Plan A Diet.
Yes.
You've taught at a number of our festivals. We've done videos together, and we're going to do another one today. And anything else you want to add about your background?
No, just this is my book, The Plan A Diet.
All right.
I've just created a new free webinar, which you can find on my website, sidnotter.com,
Okay.
which gives a lot of great information, things you can implement today.
Okay, excellent. And we were discussing topics to talk about today, and you brought one up, and it sounded very interesting to me. And right away, I wanted to hear about it. And practical things like you're saying. We're going to talk about the 4 things that you need for successful long-term weight loss. Is that correct? And health, right?
Yes, there's 4 things needed for that.
4 things, just only 4. So it's real simple then, right? Or is it complicated? Or I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah, maybe you could guess what some of them are.
Well, see, if I had to guess, I would say, well, just knowing my own background in nutrition, I'd say low calorie density foods, not very processed. Make sure you have lots of fiber, and don't eat anything that's high. It's the opposite of that, high calorie process, because then it's nearly impossible, I think, for most people to lose weight. And that's what most people eat, right? So.
Well, those are great answers. And that would fall under one of the categories.
Just one. Yeah. So why don't you enlighten us and tell us all 4 so that we can hopefully have some good takeaways from this video.
Okay, well, actually what you said would fall under the umbrella of all 4. The first one is it sustainable? So is this something you can comfortably do for the long term, and because people aren't going to be successful when they're eating smaller portions of the same unhealthy food, right?
Yes. So when you say sustainable, I have a question. Does that mean that you're not just giving your all for a moment in time and then you're going to let go, because that's not sustainable, right? if you just
No, it's not. So is this new way of eating something you can do forever, right? That's
forever.
What I mean. Is it going to serve you well over many, many years?
Okay. Yeah, of course. So you've got to find, I guess, some habits, a routine, a system that you like for a number of different reasons and are able to just continue indefinitely into the future, right?
Right. A plan that's not going to leave you hungry or feeling deprived, because you won't stick with that, right? Or
Correct.
If the foods are bland and boring, you're not going to stick with it. So it's got to be a plan that with the foods you love, you can eat whenever you're hungry and you're never feeling deprived.
Sounds awesome. Yes. So that covers number 1. Anything else involved in that? Or are we on to number 2?
We could go on to number 2. Well, back to number 1. When people go on a diet, that means they're going to probably go off the diet at some point, right? And return to their old patterns. So
Right.
This would not be a diet that you would go on. This would be a whole lifestyle change.
Okay. So not a temporary fix, like you do it once and you're done, because I think we both know that things don't work that way. You can't just do something once and you're done. It has to be ongoing, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right.
So that's number 1. Is it sustainable for the years ahead, many years ahead?
Okay. Very good.
Number 2, is it nutritionally sound? Will you be getting all the protein and calcium and fiber and carbs and vitamins and minerals and antioxidants in the right amounts? Mind you, that's important.
Okay.
To function well. So would this new way of eating ask you to be purchasing supplements and powders? And if so, why is that? Is it because the new plan's foods are lacking in those things?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
The second thing would be that it has to be nutritionally sound. And we know that when I say getting protein and calcium in the right amounts, a lot of diets overgo the protein. They're loaded with protein, animal protein, or they're super high in fat. But we want to get all of our nutrients in the right amounts. And that would make the plan nutritionally sound. So all of the things you just said about low calorie density food and lots of fiber, that would fall under this plan, this category for sure.
Okay, and may I add something? If this is right, anyway, you can tell me. You want to have like a wide variety of foods, like you see behind me, like everything, right? Because you need to get all these nutrients, like you just mentioned. And if you are saying I'm staying away from this and that and the other thing, then you may end up with not a balanced diet, you may be missing nutrients, you may hurt your health, right?
You could be, yeah. Eat the wide rainbow, right? Isn't that what Dr. Barnard and many others teach us?
Yes.
Eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and starches and whole grains, all the good stuff.
Yep. Okay, so that's good. So, and one other thing I want to ask you about that you mentioned is supplements. What are your thoughts on supplements?
Well, we know we need a B12 to be safe, right? All the doctors that I follow, and there are many of them, all promote a B12 supplement.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin D is controversial. I know some doctors that say we do need to supplement with that and others that don't. So that would be a personal choice based on the research. How do you feel about that, Mike?
Well, vitamin D is the vitamin that you get when you're out in the sun, right?
Right. It's actually a hormone.
All right. So your body develops that. Your body produces it from natural sunlight. And unless you're living in a cave, you're going to get sunlight from time to time. So it's a matter of getting the right amount. And of course, not too much, because too much of anything's bad, because too much sun will cause skin cancer, premature aging, all this other stuff. So if you're going to get it from sun, which I think is the preferred method, you just got to make sure it's the right dose, I suppose.
Right. I think it's 15 to 20 minutes of unprotected sun is 10,000 international units of vitamin D.
Okay, and let me ask you a question about that. You're in Illinois, right?
Right.
Right now. So you're high up on the latitude lines.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get as much sun, especially not in the winter, not the intensity anyway. So you got to take that into account too, correct?
Right. Although our bodies do store vitamin D,
Right.
and for the winter months, so we just have to keep an eye on it. And that's why I come to Florida in the winter.
Right. Me too. Well, not only to get enough vitamin D, but also I'd say to get enough light in general, because I think that when people don't, this is not necessarily a nutrition thing or a weight loss thing, but for me, I find if I don't get enough light, it affects my mood, so.
Too, big time. Yeah. I definitely suffer from SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And I didn't even realize it till my husband pointed it out one year. He said, every February you go into a big funk.
Yeah, hibernation.
Yeah. So that's when I discovered I needed light. I need
Yes.
sunlight to keep my mood up.
Yep, I agree. I feel the same way. So we got half of them covered then, right? What about 3 and 4?
Well, one more thing about the vitamin D.
Yes.
Dr. McDougall, he says that even people in the Northwestern states, they sell solar panels there. So even if you're living in the Northwest, you can be getting enough sun to get vitamin D. So
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's why I brought up the length of exposure to the ultraviolet rays. It's going to be longer in the wintertime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just as long as people keep that in mind, that's all.
Well, now say that again, Mike, the length.
The length of your exposure to ultraviolet to produce the same amount of vitamin D is going to be longer in the northern states in the wintertime as it would in the northern states in the summertime, because the sun is so much lower and less intense.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep. So Eric, and does that cover number 2?
That covers number 2.
Right.
Number 1 is it sustainable. Number 2 is it nutritionally sound. Number 3 is the new plan based on unbiased science.
Okay.
Right. And
that's a tough one. Yeah.
Because there's studies out there to back up any point of view, or any diet plan can find studies to support whatever it is that they're promoting. So in order to know if a diet plan is credible, we want to always look at the science that has not been sponsored by somebody that's going to profit from it, such as the agriculture industry or a supplement maker or food lobbies. We want to look at independent research that was not funded by somebody who stands to profit from the results.
No, the average person, how is the average person going to know that they've got that type of information? One of the reasons I'm asking is because I did talk to Dr. Campbell recently, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and he's got this new book where he talks about this.
Oh.
And he mentions how most of the science is funded by somebody. So they're going to end up with the result that they paid for in a way, right?
Right.
So how is somebody supposed to know? That's what I mean, because I wouldn't necessarily know, but I do get the idea that most of it is funded by someone like you and I, right? Sid and Mike probably don't have enough money to launch some kind of study. And if we did, it would probably all determine that whole food plant-based eating is the way to go, right? But these large corporations, they have their agenda, they have their entire business model around something, and they will fund the study because they need a certain result. So how is the average person supposed to know? I mean, we got the internet, but is there a place we can go? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, well, actually on my website, I have a list of 7 things you can do to evaluate everything you hear and read.
Oh, okay.
The first one is, of course, to look at who's funding the research. Now, anybody, they'll always cite a study. You can click on that link, go to that study, and just read the abstract of the study, which is kind of the summary of it. And then down below, it'll say who sponsored the study. And if there were any contradictions, sometimes that comes up, if there's any contradictory or what do they call it? Conflicts of interest.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll list that. But it's not just looking at who sponsored it, although that's a big one. If the dairy industry is sponsoring something that says, milk is so good for you, then yeah, maybe you don't want to listen to the dairy industry about that. So
they're going to say that. Yeah.
I know one lady that I was just talking to recently, she was convinced that she needed to eat eggs every day because she's been convinced by this study. And when I looked at it, it was sponsored by the egg industry,
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, who sponsored it. Next would be the parameters of the study. Was it 10 people or was it hundreds of people? Really look at the details of the study. I remember one time, I've got a file folder called misleading headlines. Okay, so the headline was, new study shows plant-based diets do not improve your health. So I looked at that study, and what they were considering was, as a plant-based diet, was 1 sweet potato a day.
That's it. Just totally mono diet, I guess, right?
Yeah, so you can't believe a headline. That's number one, right? Because that's
Right.
usually a sensationalized thing to get your attention. But you really have to look at what are they calling. So a lot of times they'll say a low-fat diet, but the diet they're promoting is 30% fat. That's not a low-fat diet.
Right.
Compared to 40, 50% fat, it's lower fat. But in our worldview, 30% fat is not a low-fat diet.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree. I mean, it's one thing to say what the average person's doing or the average American is doing. And we all know how the average American is doing with their health. Not good at all. So I don't think we want to use that as a benchmark. It's got to be, like you said, real information, unbiased and true. That's what we need to be basing our food that we're eating on, that information.
Right. So yeah, there's 7 things to evaluate what we hear and read, and it takes a little time, but there are doctors that I trust to report the correct things too, so sometimes Dr. Pam Popper is one that I really like. She gets down to the nitty gritty of research, and Dr. Greger too, he does too. So, but
very
check
good.
things out for yourself, especially if you're going to base your health decisions on something, right? You want to investigate it. I mean, sometimes we spend more time investigating a vacation spot or our car that we're going to buy, much more than we would investigate something that we're going to ingest.
I think that's probably true for everyone, including even myself. If I just let things go as they go, because we're in a consumer society, consumer driven, right? And that's what the focus is on. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of focus on the optimal diet, optimal nutrition. So we're glad that we have you here to tell us about these things.
Okay. Which brings us to number 4, which is it safe for my health? Right? Mike, that the number of diet books that fly off the shelf these days are anything but good for our long-term health.
Yes.
They might offer weight loss temporarily because of the way they're structured, or they reduce calories, or your body's being forced to do something unnatural.
Yeah.
But down the road, I mean, they're sacrificing their health in order to lose weight temporarily. So the 4th thing is to find out, is this plan really good for my health long term?
Okay. And like when you mention those things, you're probably talking about things like the animal product based keto diets, because those, I think that's the most recent fad anyway, right?
Yeah, all the high fat, high protein, low carb diets, excuse me, which we know contribute to serious health issues down the road. Dementia, heart disease, diabetes, all these things. So your new way of eating, or any way of eating that you're considering, should build good health, not destroy your health.
Yes, right? Absolutely. So if there are folks watching this video that don't know this, that there really is a way of eating, a lifestyle like you're describing, that provides all the benefits. It's not just the weight loss. but it is the health, the best health, right? All in this in one package. And folks need to know that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like how Dr. Greger put it in his book. Losing weight should not be, the goal of losing weight should not be to lighten the burden for your pallbearers.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
That's putting it very bluntly, but
Right.
and it's How Not to Diet book. I just thought that was a good quote.
Yeah,
So we just want to lose weight. We want to stay healthy as well.
Yeah, well, these are some good tips. And, like you said, if you want to learn more from what Sid has, well, of course, hopefully we'll be doing some more videos. We've done some videos in the past as well. Sid is also spends time presenting at some of our live festivals when we can have them. And hopefully we'll be getting back into them soon. And you have your website, of course, sidnotter.com. So I know you have a lot of this information, including the rest of those 7 items that you were mentioning are all on your website, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the only diet that we can say is nutritionally sound, it's based on unbiased science, it's sustainable, and it's good for our health, is a whole food, plant-based, no added oil diet. I mean, that's the crux of it.
Yes.
The way that we're eating is the only diet that can answer all 4 of those with a big yes.
Yeah, that's true. And hopefully as time goes on, folks like yourself are out here talking to people about this, letting them know that this is the way to go. Maybe this eventually will be like the new peer pressure. I feel like a lot of people get in these other, what they think are solutions that actually aren't, right? They're just short-term weight loss. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. Just because they hear it from somebody. Hopefully, you're doing a great job getting the word out that people will be hearing only this going forward. And, so many benefits, so many ways. It's really a no-brainer once you learn about it. So, right. So thanks for telling us about it.
Sure. And those short-term weight loss things, the weight doesn't stay off, right? I mean, right. That's why the diet industry is billions of dollars. It's based on repeat business.
Yes. And then hopefully, I know, let me get one thing, I guess, to end this on, it's not just an optimistic note, but I think I found this to be reality, and I'm curious to your opinion. Generally, when you're talking about the foods you're talking about, you're not talking about the least expensive foods out there, right? The least expensive foods are the ones that are subsidized by the government, generally high calorie, highly processed foods. They cram a lot of food into a small package and they sell it for a little money. Mm-hmm. That's unfortunate because, so you've got to think beyond that. You've got to realize that if you really want to lose weight, there is going to be some cost to it, right? If you go for the least expensive foods out there, you probably won't be able to lose weight. That's what I see out there in the market anyway. You
mean like the cheap junk food, that is cheap Twinkies? Yes. Sure.
All that stuff, right? High caloric density. So you get a lot of calories for a little money. And that stuff is not going to help your weight or your health.
No, I think of it as redirected spending. I'm going to spend my money on good food rather than over the counter, whatever, for aches and pains and headaches. That's right. Redirect your spending toward the good food.
Good point. Yeah. So folks need to realize that you're going to pay one way or the other, correct? Mm-hmm. So hopefully if you pay, then you're in control of it, because once you hand it over to the medical system, it's out of your control. At least that's how most people view it. They don't realize they can bring it back within their control, but you can with the lifestyle, with the right lifestyle. But there is going to be a little bit additional cost per day to live like that, but not as much as it would be with all the other complications of bad health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are books out there how to eat well, plant-based for under $5 a day or something. I haven't read those personally. I know there's things out there like that, but have you read any of those books, Mike? Or
I haven't, but I can also see that growing your own food is going to be probably the least expensive way to do it. It's going to take some time, mm-hmm. but you will save money. Even if you're in a climate where you have harsh winters, you can still grow food probably at least half the year, and even possibly save some of it. Freeze it if you need to. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'll do in terms of, because I'm talking about like whole plants, right? Food is grown. That's the optimal type of food because it's not processed at all. And if you're growing it yourself too, another thing to keep in mind, and we can talk about this in maybe future videos, is that you can grow it without chemicals. You know exactly how it's grown. Whenever you buy produce out at the store, you don't know. So you can do it even better that way too. But again, a little more effort. That's what's going to take.
Mm-hmm. And I always tell my clients too that it's going to cost you more upfront when you're buying all the staples that we use in plant-based cooking, the nutritional yeast and the tahini and all this stuff. It will cost you more upfront. But then you've just got to plan your recipes. That saves a lot of money when you know exactly what you need to get at the store for the recipes, and then it works out fine.
Yes, yeah, agree. Very, very good. So, well, anyway, thanks again for another enlightening video. And if you know somebody or yourself who's struggling in this area, which I think everybody is, it's so easy to get off track. But this is some good information to have. Tag some friends in the video. You can even ask questions here, and maybe we'll do another video in the future based on other questions you might have. So thanks again, Sid. Remember, go check her website out, sidnotter.com, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great holiday weekend.
You're welcome. Thanks, you too. Bye.